Before sunrise, the Midwest sky turned an eerie gray. Then, without warning, the first snowflakes began to fall. Within hours, highways, airports, and neighborhoods across the Great Lakes were blanketed under a fast-moving winter storm that no one saw coming this soon. In parts of Illinois, Indiana, and as far north as Michigan, winds gusting up to 45 miles per hour pushed blinding sheets of snow across the landscape. Visibility dropped to near zero. By morning, the storm had reached its full force, a fierce mix of lake-effect snow-freezing wind and plummeting temperatures. Roads turned to ice. Schools shut down. Flights were grounded. And for millions, it felt like winter had arrived overnight. Meteorologists say this isn't just another early cold snap. It's part of a growing pattern of more volatile and unpredictable winters sweeping across North America. This was nature's first warning shot, and it hit hard. By dawn, the quiet beauty of falling snow had turned into a full-scale whiteout. In Chicago, gusts off Lake Michigan intensified, creating narrow but relentless snow bands that hammered the city's southern suburbs. Within just a few hours, towns like Kankakee and Momence were buried under nearly a foot of snow, while neighborhoods only a few miles away saw barely an inch. That's the power and cruelty of lake-effect weather. Across the state line in northwest Indiana, cities like Lowell and Crown Point faced similar chaos. Visibility dropped to almost nothing as plows fought to keep up with the storm's pace. Highways resembled frozen rivers of steel lined with stranded vehicles and flashing hazard lights. By mid-morning, dozens of schools across Illinois and Indiana canceled classes, and emergency alerts urged residents to stay off the roads. For drivers, it was too late. More than 100 crashes were reported by noon. From Chicago's O'Hare Airport to Gary, Chicago international flight delays piled up as icy winds cut across the runways. What had started as a picturesque snowfall became a life-threatening storm that tested every plow driver, commuter, and first responder across the heartland. Winter had arrived, not gently but with authority. By mid-morning, the storm had transformed into a wall of white. Snowfall rates exceeded 2 inches per hour, and winds gusting over 40 miles per hour turned entire highways into blinding tunnels of snow. Drivers reported being unable to see even the taillights of the car ahead. Along Interstate 65 in Indiana and I-57 in Illinois, wrecks piled up. Emergency responders raced from one crash to another, jackknifed trucks, stranded families' cars buried in roadside drifts. Plow operators worked around the clock, but the snow fell faster than they could clear it. "It's like trying to shovel the ocean," one driver said over the radio. In Chicago, public transit slowed to a crawl as rail switches froze and buses skidded on slick intersections. Commuters trudged through knee-deep snow to reach shelters or trains still running. Downtown businesses delayed openings. Others shut entirely. Meteorologists from the National Weather Service warned that the lake effect bands were locked in place, meaning some communities would see hours of continuous snowfall, while others remained nearly untouched. It was a classic Midwest paradox: chaos in one zip code, calm in the next. Across the Great Lakes, the first storm of the season had made its statement loud and clear: winter doesn't wait for permission. Behind the chaos lay a familiar culprit, Lake Michigan. When cold Arctic air rushed south across the still warm lake surface, it triggered one of nature's most dramatic weather engines, lake effect snow. As the frigid air swept over the warmer water, it absorbed moisture rose and condensed into towering clouds. Once those clouds reached land, they unleashed relentless snow squalls on the same unlucky regions again and again. Meteorologists call this the snow gun effect, a narrow but powerful band that can drop a foot or more of snow on one community while leaving another just 10 miles away nearly dry. Wind direction and temperature shifts make the phenomenon unpredictable, even for the best forecasters. This time, everything lined up perfectly for a major event: sharp temperature contrasts, steady wind flow, and abundant lake moisture. Radar images showed streaks of intense snowfall stretching across the lake, aiming directly at the Illinois-Indiana border. While the storm looked beautiful from space on the ground, it was an entirely different story: chaos, cold, and complete disruption. Scientists say that as the Great Lakes grow warmer with climate change, these lake-effect storms could become stronger and more frequent, a chilling preview of the winters to come. As the storm intensified, the human impact became painfully visible. Families were stranded in their cars overnight along Interstate 80, wrapped in blankets as engines idled for warmth. In northwest Indiana, emergency responders used snowmobiles to reach residents trapped in rural homes cut off by 6-foot drifts. Police scanners crackled nonstop with distress calls, accidents, medical emergencies, power outages. In Kankakee County, a school bus carrying 23 students slid off an icy back road. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured, but the rescue took nearly 2 hours as plows struggled to reach them. Dozens of semi-trucks jackknifed along highways, blocking access for emergency vehicles. Inside, homes' flickering lights warned of a different danger. Power lines weighed down by heavy, wet snow. By nightfall, more than 30,000 residents were without electricity across Illinois and Indiana. Firefighters urged people not to use generators indoors as temperatures plunged below 20-degree gust. At local warming centers and church shelters, volunteers handed out hot coffee, blankets, and meals. One Red Cross worker described the scene. You can see the exhaustion in their faces, but also relief they made it through the night. For thousands across the Midwest, the storm wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a test of endurance, patience, and faith.
First snow بكندا بلشت الشتوية.
Well, there's the snowfall. Look at it. Look at how bad.
By dawn, the Midwest had shifted from shock to action. Over 1,200 snowplows rolled out across Illinois and Indiana, their amber lights glowing through the blizzard like beacons of hope. Crews from the Illinois Department of Transportation and local municipalities worked in shifts around the clock, trying to keep main arteries open for ambulances and first responders. Utility companies mobilized hundreds of line workers, some arriving from neighboring states to restore power where ice-laden trees had snapped power lines. In the hardest-hit areas, residents watched as teams scaled poles in 40 mMep winds, battling snow and darkness to reconnect the grid. Governors in both states declared weather emergencies, freeing up funds and allowing the National Guard to assist with rescues and transportation. Snowmobiles and Humvees delivered supplies to rural towns cut off by drifts taller than cars. In Chicago City, officials opened warming shelters for the homeless as temperatures plunged, while volunteers fanned out to deliver blankets and food to encampments. Meteorologists warned that another round of lake-effect snow could redevelop later in the week, But for now, the focus was survival and recovery. "We can rebuild," said one emergency official. "But first we dig out one street, one driveway, one life at a time." When the winds eased and daylight returned, the Midwest awoke to a silence only snow can bring, calm, heavy, almost sacred. Streets once buried under chaos now lay blanketed in white, glistening under the pale November sun. It was beautiful, but it came at a cost. For many, the storm was a wake-up call, a reminder that nature still holds the power to stop modern life in its tracks. Drivers spoke about how quickly visibility vanished, how routine commutes turned into hours-long ordeals. Power crews described frostbitten hands, long nights, and the strange peace that comes after crisis. Meteorologists reflected too. The event was textbook lake effect, yet stronger, more persistent, and earlier than normal. Many pointed to the warming Great Lakes as a warning sign. As the lakes stay ice-free longer, each fall the potential for heavier snowstorms grows. In communities across Illinois, Indiana, and southern Michigan, people began to shovel out together. Neighbors helped dig driveways. Children built snowmen where cars had been buried. In the stillness after the storm, humanity's resilience shone through. Winter had arrived early, and it carried a message: preparation, cooperation, and respect for the forces that shape the world we live in. As night fell once more across the snow-covered Midwest, the echoes of the storm still lingered in the hum of generators, the scraping of shovels, and the quiet gratitude of those who made it through. Streets that had vanished beneath 10 inches of snow now shimmered under streetlights, a reflection of endurance and unity. From Chicago's frozen skyline to the quiet fields of northern Indiana, this storm told a story not only of chaos, but of community. It reminded America that even in an age of technology and constant motion, a single surge of cold air can still humble millions, grounding flights, silencing highways, and forcing everyone to pause. Yet, amid the silence came strength: neighbors helping neighbors, first responders risking everything, and families rediscovering what it means to care for one another. As we look ahead to the long winter ahead, remember, nature will always have the final word. But how we respond, that's our story. If you found this story moving, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories of survival science and the unstoppable power of our changing planet.